Is there a male equivalent to Karen? If there is, does it share the same racially driven history as its female counterpart? Or does it originate from another part of history? What's up everybody, and welcome to part 2 of the History of Karen series, What's the Male Version of Karen? I'd recommend watching part 1 if you haven't done so, and if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. Like always, any sources mentioned or unmentioned will be listed in the description below. So a few weeks ago, I got called a Karen. Again, see part 1 of this series, and I posed the question to my Twitter, what's the male equivalent of Karen? My friend responded with Chad, and while I don't think that it's a direct equivalent to Karen, I do think it's a good starting point for common male pejorative memes. So, some definitions. While the word Chad has a lot of definitions that I will not be mentioning, a Chad is described as likely a white male with an abnormally large ego, common in their teens or early 20s. Chads tend to refer to their peers as bros or dudes. Chads are usually into fitness in order to get laid by their bros. While Know Your Meme doesn't have a definition for what a Chad is, Wikipedia does, stating it's a derogatory way to call a young urban American male, typically single and in his 20s or early 30s. According to Wikipedia, the term Chad originated in Chicago on a satirical website and was a term referring to someone from affluent Chicago suburbs that was rich and went down a specific life path. According to Urban Dictionary, the top definition of a Kyle is a young white male of low socioeconomic standing with a propensity to drink large quantities of Monster energy drink and do dumb shit like punch holes in walls. Now I'll admit, if you scroll down the page a little bit, the second definition of a Kyle is the counterpart of Karen. And now you may be thinking, okay, question answered, why am I even watching this video? Well, that's because it's not quite the male counterpart of Karen. Kyle is definitely not used in the same way that Karen is, which Know Your Meme elaborates on. Similar to how Karen is used online, Kyle parodies a certain kind of person with a set of characteristics one associates with the name. In Kyle's case, these are characteristics of an angry white male teenager. These traits include poor judgment, acting impulsively, punching holes in drywall, and drinking the Monster energy drink. As you can see, it's a similar meme to Karen, but not exactly an equivalent. The Kyle meme emerged in November 2015 from this Vine by Nick Coletti.
What the f*** is up, Kyle? No, what did you say, dude? What the f***, dude? Step the f*** up, Kyle.
The meme gained traction in 2016, according to Wikipedia, spreading to Reddit and leading to the creation of the r/Kyle subreddit, as well as the phrase Kyle's gonna Kyle. The last line is a reference to the meme spread in 2019 with the creation of this image. The implication here is that Kyles drink a ton of Monster and punch holes in walls, which I don't personally think is funny, but I guess the rest of the internet thought it was hilarious. Returning to the original point, are any of the above actually common cop collar memes? No. According to Know Your Meme, there are 2 men that fall into this category: ID Adam and Coupon Karl. For those of you who don't know him, myself included, ID Adam is the nickname given to a man who was filmed asking a black woman to provide proof that she was a local resident in order to use a community pool in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. In July 2018, Jasmine Edwards posted a video with the message "racial profiling at its worst," featuring footage of herself discussing her right to use a community pool with a local resident, eventually identified as Adam Bloom, and the police at Glenridge Community in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Really quickly, I think her Facebook is Jasmine Edwards, while her real name is Jasmine Abulaman, as that's the name that the New York Times uses to identify her.
Share their ID.
I need you to tell me, because I live in this neighborhood. You tell me.
He has a camera on right now.
Good. Is there an ordinance that we have to show ID to use the
There's
pool?
the
Exactly.
right there.
Where does it
That's
say
all.
that I have to show an ID to use my pool, my own pool?
It doesn't say she has to show an ID anywhere.
And
Yeah.
nobody else was asked their ID. I am the only black. I feel this is racial profiling. I'm the only black person here with my son in the pool, right?
My
Even
son
though,
is also black. He's in the pool.
and he walked only to me to ask for my ID. That's what it is.
If she has a card to get in the pool, I believe that should be enough.
Okay, let's validate that it works then. I can close the gate.
But where does it say?
Okay.
I need an ID. He asked for ID.
According to the New York Times, Adam Bloom was fired from his job at the packaging company Sonico, as well as released an apology to Jasmine. He even resigned from the Glen Ridge Homeowners Association, which said, "We sincerely regret that an incident occurred yesterday at our community pool that left neighbors feeling racially profiled. In confronting and calling the police on one of our neighbors, the pool chair escalated a situation in a way that does not reflect the inclusive values Glen Ridge seeks to uphold as a community." According to Know Your Meme, Coupon Karl is the name given to a CVS manager named Maury Matson, who called the police on a black female customer for attempting to use a manufacturer's coupon at a CVS store in Chicago. It emerged in July 2018, only 10 days after ID Adams' memeing, when Camilla Hudson, the previously mentioned customer, posted online about a hostile interaction that she had with a CVS store manager when she attempted to use a manufacturer's coupon at his CVS Chicago store. Take a look.
It's a female. She's wearing a green.
Tell them
short
I'll be
sleeve
here
set
when they arrive, that I will be
and,
waiting for them to arrive.
A white.
You can tell them her
short
name
sleeve
is
dress,
Camilla Hudson. I
and
have
she says
ID
her
and
name
will
is
share
Camilla
it.
Hudson, probably spelled Camillahudson.
You got it. Exactly, like the river.
African American.
Black. No, I'm not African American. I'm black. Black isn't a bad word.
Madsen was fired after CVS investigated the phone call. Again, a white person calling the cops on a black person for doing something that is very much not illegal and requires no intervention from said cops. I'd say I'm surprised, but I'm not, and you shouldn't be either. And that's it. No more male cop callers. Again, as stated in my last video, on the Know Your Meme cop caller page, only 2 out of 13 cop callers are male, aka 15%. So the first time that I wondered if there was a male version of Karen, which I think was in June 2020, the internet was of no help. However, with the rise of Karen memes, I guess other people were wondering the same thing. Because about a week before I started writing this video, I found this article by Berical. And let's face it, this answers my question on the dot. By the way, if you're enjoying this video, please hit that like button. It really helps my video gain traction. And if you'd like more content on creativity, culture, and technology and where they overlap, hit that subscribe button and tap that notification bell. I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate you. Berical's article starts by going into the history of racially charged memes. For example, BBQ Becky, who, quote, wielded her whiteness like a buzzsaw, end quote, and goes on to say that she was followed by figures like Permit Patty and Central Park Karen, each riffing on a theme of racist quasi-distress, the discomfort of privilege mistaken for an emergency. Again, for more on the history of these racist Beckys and Karens and Patties, see part 1 of this series. Eventually, Berical answers the question that we've all been asking. What is the male equivalent of a Karen? While less discussed, there is a male version of Karen. His name is Ken, or maybe Greg or Terry. To elaborate on this, he calls upon Dr. April Williams, who, funny enough, was in the Time article that was mentioned in part 1 of this series. Needless to say, Dr. Williams knows her stuff. She says that, in reference to the Karen meme, the thing I love about it as a tool is that the memes highlight the everyday power of whiteness. She has a cohesive theory as to why this is the case and why the internet, in particular Black Twitter, seems to let Kens off the hook. Her theory suggests that racist narratives are deeply internalized and woven into American culture. Okay, so it seems like the history of male Karens, aka the history of Kens, is the exact same as the history of female Karens, aka because of slavery. But why is it that Kens are so overlooked by the internet? First, a little background on the theory. As Dr. Williams says, the internet is a mirror for our society. It's not separate. Memes are a reflection of that socialization process, as well as people pushing back against racism. So to say that they're just memes really discounts the perspective of people of color, as well as white people who believe that casual racism upholds white supremacy. Dr. Williams builds on this point, reiterating what she said in the last video about the position of white women in society with respect to the white man and the black man. White women have more power than people of color, but less power than white men. As we know by this point, that's what leads to Karens. But what about Kens? According to Dr. Williams, the reason we don't see white men calling the police on black people is due to the gender socialization process where women are conditioned to call out and seek help and men are not. In the case of Ahmaud Arbery, Instead of trying to call the police, these white men decided to take justice into their own hands. Instead of calling the police to inflict harm, white men simply inflict harm themselves. They are at the top of that power structure, and they feel that they have the right to enforce white supremacy or just their power over others. Berical then builds upon this idea, saying that if Terrys or Gregs or Kens aren't acting out, they're likely not telling Karen to calm down. Complacency seems to be a defining quality as well. Dr. Williams responds to this by saying, "Complacency is my #1 frustration with white men in America right now. His silence enables her behavior. I think complacency comes from being comfortable with the way things are, which is sort of an innate desire to maintain the status quo. Humans are afraid of change. But there are also people who are deliberately complacent. They don't want to see the problem. They want to hang on to their status position in society." And so for her, that's the critical difference. When people are complacent because they're comfortable versus people who are complacent because they believe in white supremacy and want to uphold those standards. For me personally, I find this extremely interesting because, as I mentioned in the last video, white women contribute to oppressive systems, so a cycle is created. It starts with the oppression of black people by white people. A white woman yells wolf on a black man, and a white man comes over and either lets her keep yelling or does something about it himself, which leads to the white man oppressing the black man again. A vicious, prevalent cycle of hatred and violence that needs to end. There are a lot of great points in this article that I didn't mention, so if you're interested, check out the link in the description. So to answer the question of what the male equivalent of Karen is, there is none. But before you're all like, "Oh my god, you just said that it was a Ken, like what are you talking about?" Let me explain. There is no male meme equivalent to the Karen. If a white man sees a black man taking a jog down the street, he's not gonna call the cops like a Karen would. Instead, he's gonna take matters into his own hands. That's the male equivalent of a Karen. While a Karen uses her words to call the police, the Kens become the police themselves, taking matters into their own hands and doing what they think is right. However, these men are not memed as the Karen is. When a white man attacks a black man, we call them by their names, and rightly so. These recurring events should not be boiled down to a meme. They should be remembered and prevented. Thank you for watching, I really appreciate it, and I'll see you next week for how you can be more creative right now. See you then.